Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I want to add my concerns also to those that others have expressed on this Telecommunications Interception Capability and Security Bill. Mr Speaker, other people have talked about the content of the bill and the flawed nature of the content and the damage that it is likely to do for an innovative and expanding industry in New Zealand. I share those concerns, but they are not the concerns I wish to elaborate on this afternoon. My concerns are around process. And my concern, Mr Speaker, is that what we have seen with this piece of legislation, which was introduced in a hurry, which was referred to a select committee for a truncated period of time, and which the government is now seeking to dispose of this week through its second reading in committee stages, is a complete disdain for process and for lawmaking in this country. And why it's particularly important in this respect is that this piece of legislation is a companion piece of legislation to the GCSB Act that was passed by a slim margin earlier this year. Mr Speaker, the concerns around process for me are fundamental. We heard the start of a sermon a moment ago from a National Party speaker about the protection of democracy. And I would say, in addition to that, Mr Speaker, that privacy is an important underpinning element of a democracy. And what this bill does not do is get the balance right between the protection of security measures, which we on the Labour Party side of the House absolutely understand and recognise, but it does not balance those with the need to protect privacy. Individuals have a right to have their privacy protected in a democracy, because otherwise they will not speak up and they will not be able to speak up for fear of interception and retribution and punishment of one sort or another. Whether it is the Minister of Social Welfare making a beneficiary's private records public for her own point, for her own sake, or whether it is the selling of legislation for big business interests, this government seems to have no regard for the protection of a democracy that is about individual liberties and responsibilities as well as collective ones. Let me just elaborate on that a bit further, Mr Speaker. The points that concern me in this in particular was that this legislation was an opportunity, another opportunity lost for the government to stimulate a public debate about what our security systems in the modern age ought to look like and how we can do that and still achieve a vibrant communications sector that could be allowed to contribute to the government's GDP. Mr Speaker, what we have in this bill is the worst of all worlds. We have a capitulation to big business because the Minister has come in with an 11th hour supplementary order paper, which is a defiance of process in itself. But she's come in with an SOP which deletes clause 39, which was the clause that was going to require overseas companies to comply with our legislation in a way that was not consistent with their own. So, Mr Speaker, not only has this been badly done, but it has been done badly. The process has been flawed from beginning to end. This government apparently has no regard for the democratic health of this country. The government has sold our industrial laws to Warner Brothers, our gambling laws to Sky City, our democratic rights to protest to the oil and gas industry, and this is just another capitulation in a hurry on a piece of legislation that ought to be protecting individual liberty and not restricting it.
Members, I call Jamie Lee Ross.
Speaker, I commend the bill to the House.
Mr Speaker.
Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, it's a great pleasure to rise and